Hey everyone! In my previous video, we looked at how to use the setting user file to enable custom sub-GHz receive frequencies. We also added a custom preset for on-off keying with a bandwidth of 100 kHz. In this video, we're going to create our own custom preset data targeting the 100 kHz bandwidth. The goal of this video is to teach you how to make the changes so you can modify your custom preset data to meet your specific requirements. Let's get started. I wanted to start by showing the docs flipper 0.1 hardware schematic page. This shows how the sub-GHz CC1101 is connected. So if you zoom out, you can see a schematic, which may be helpful depending on what you're trying to do with your sub-GHz radio. One thing that's very important to note was the crystal. So the crystal that they're using is a 26 megahertz crystal. We'll need that for part of our calculations today. The CC1101 spec is a fairly large document. It's over 100 pages. I recommend kind of scanning through it and understanding what all is in there. A couple of pages that I end up using a lot are page 5, which is the table of contents. That's good to jump around. And then also page 68, which is the definition of all the different registers and links to the format information. We'll be looking at both of these in more detail. So let's jump down to the crystal oscillator. So the crystal oscillator has a crystal frequency we saw was 26 megahertz crystal, which is the typical and the minimum value that you should use. That's what we're going to use whenever we see a formula that asks for the frequency of our crystal. Next, let's go back to page 5 and we'll look at the bandwidth. And in here we can see that they're using this register MDM-CFG4 with a bandwidth E and a bandwidth M setting, and they're both on that register CFG4. And there's a formula here and a table that does the calculations for us. So let's go ahead and jump to page 68 and we'll find that MDM-CFG4. Here it is. And page 76 is where the details are on that register. We can see 10 hex is the register value for MDM-CFG4. And then we can see the first two most significant bits, bits 7 and 6, are the channel bandwidth E, and then the next two bits, bits 5 and 4, are the channel bandwidth M. And then we can see there's a formula for calculating our bandwidth channel. And remember, our goal is to set this to 100 kilohertz. The lower 4 bits is not related to the bandwidth formula, so we don't want to change the lower 4 bits in the configuration. So for this data sheet, the bandwidth E uses 2 bits and the bandwidth M uses 2 bits. So if there's 2 bits, there's 4 possible combinations. If there was instead 3 bits, then there's 8 combinations. In our case, we're trying to make a table for 2 bits by 2 bits. So we have 0 through 3 and 0 through 3. The frequency of our crystal is 26 megahertz, we said. So that's 26 million hertz. Bandwidth E going across and bandwidth M going down. So the bandwidth channel formula is our frequency. So that's in cell B1. And we divide that by 8 times 4 plus our M, which is in column A. We multiply that by 2 raised to the power of our bandwidth E, which is C4. And then if everything works out well, so this is our table. And then there's an Excel formula called des to bin. So you can say des to bin and we can say C4 and we want 2-digit number. And that'll give us our binary equivalents. Des to binary, A6, 2 numbers. So these are the binary values for our bandwidth E, and these are the binary values for our bandwidth M. Over in VS Code, I've opened up Sub-GHz setting file, and we can see that AM270 is using the on-off keying 270 kilohertz bandwidth, and AM650 is using on-off keying 650 kilohertz bandwidth. Let's go ahead and jump into the 270. And so in this 270, remember the register we cared about was MDM CFG4. If we hover over it, we see it expands to 10 hex, which is the same thing we saw in the spec. And our value is 67 hex. I'm going to go ahead and copy that line into Notepad so we have it. Let's bring up the calculator. And we're going to switch to programmer and click on hex and type in 67. And so we can see in binary that our code is 01100111. So now that we have that, let's figure out what is our CHAN BWE. So our CHAN BWE is the first 2 bits, which was 01. And then our CHAN BWM was the next 2 bits, which is 10. And our D rate E that we don't want to modify was 0111. In binary, we're going to type in 01, and we can see that that's decimal 1. And now we have 10. So in binary, we'll type in 10, and you can see that's decimal 2. So we know our E is value of 1 and our M is a value of 2. We had an E was set to 01, which is here. And then our M was set to 10, which is this row. And so that was our 270. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 650 instead. What would we think that that should be? So 650, there's our CFG4. And for CFG4, and then we'll go ahead and type in hex 17. And our binary is 0001 0111 binary. So our CHAN B with E is 00, and our CHAN B with M is 01, E 00, M 01, and that matched up perfectly. And so now the value we actually want is a 100 kilohertz. So the closest value is the 101. So we're going to go ahead and use that. So that is going to be an E of 11. Our CHAN bandwidth E is going to be 11. And our CHAN bandwidth M is going to be 00. And then we still want our D rate E to be 0111. So we're going to go ahead and go to binary and clear that. And we'll type in, so we want our E to be 11. And then we want our M to be 00. And then we want our data rate E to be 0111. And so our hex value is C7. Okay, so we're over in our firmware on the setting_user example file. Like the previous video, we're going to go ahead and rename that to setting user, remove the .example. We are going to add standard frequencies. And then this custom preset, this is currently the custom preset for AM650. This data here is for AM650. But what we wanted was, ours is called AM102. It's 102 kilohertz bandwidth, or 101.56. What we saw was we need to change register 10 to be C7 instead of the existing 17 value. So the way this data works is it's the register and then the value. Register, value, register, value, register, value, register, value. Register value, register value, register value. So our value needs to be C7. So we save that. And at that point, we now have a new setting user file that is 102 kilohertz bandwidth. So all that's remaining is to deploy our settings user onto the flipper. So we're going to say reveal in File Explorer, open up our Q flipper, go into SD card, sub-gigahertz, assets. If there's a setting user or setting user example, delete it. And then we'll drag our new setting user file. And that's it. And so now we go into sub-gigahertz. And we go to configuration. We now have an AM102 modulation. In this video, we looked at the CC1101 spec. We learned about page 5, the table of contents. We learned we can click into a topic. And then within the topic, we can learn which registers have the data we need to manipulate. We can click on the registers, or we can go to page 68, has the index of all registers. We learned that our crystal is running at 26 megahertz. And we learned how to understand how the number of bits impact the number of choices. Please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, please leave them below.